Good afternoon. We have with us Sadia Dehlvi. She's a writer, she's a columnist who has written about women, minorities, Islamic spirituality, heritage, and Delhi culture. Right? Her first or the earlier books were on Sufism, the heart of Islam. Her second book is the Sufi Courtyard, the Dargahs of Delhi, and her present book is a very interesting book, Jasmine and Jeans. I'm quite intrigued with the title. You can't make out what it is to begin with when you read the title, and then it is about, the book is about her food and her memories of food, the food that she grew up with in the city of Delhi. And with the food, she tells us about her story, the story of her family, the story of her community, their customs, their traditions. She also, a community in which food plays an important role, is an important element, just like any other community. In her book, Sadia gives us a peek, not only in her kitchen, but the kitchen of her family, of her aunts, her cousins, her friends, and she takes us through the lanes and by-lanes of Delhi, where the Muslim food is still being cooked. She makes Delhi, old Delhi, come alive in her book. It is, I want to read it at a leisure, I'll just read it quickly, but it is well written, very easy to read. It appears to be an amazing book.
Thank you so much.
The book provides a number of recipes, mouth-watering recipes with illustrations and with the family photographs. All-time favorite like halim, biryanis, koftas, kebabs, and kheer, which my grandchildren call it yummy food. The book is very engaging and it can relate to anyone. Now, I'm going to ask you 3 questions before you get what to say.
No, I'm just want to thank Vivek for inviting me. It's always wonderful to come to this great city, and I'm very honored to be here on the panel with my very, very dear friend who I respect a lot. I admire her as a person, I admire her work. So, so I'm very happy to share this panel with Rakhshanda and Fatima, whose book I've just picked up this morning, and I think it also gives us such a deep insight into the Goan food, the history, the spices. And so I thank you all, for being here today. So the questions.
You would like to ask questions?
Food is about memories and stories and culture and tradition and above all love, warmth, hospitality. And so, whenever you think of food, you associate a certain taste, a flavor, a person, a place. It's really what just brings us all so much together. And like you said, I just wanted to write my story of not just food, because I'm not the best cook. I've learned from my aunts and the elders in the family, and I'm fond of it. But it's just that, and Delhi food is not traditionally just Muslim. It was Banya, Kayast, Jain, and Muslim. So for me, food is also about a beautiful tapestry of, an historically layered, a composite culture, how, which is still very alive in the food traditions. I also talk about the Banya food and the other kind of cuisines, the Kayast, and how they all differ and yet borrowed from each other. And so it's much more, and than just I want to tell these stories about my own childhood and how I grew up and what food meant. And Delhi, we have very distinct seasons, so everything is season-based. It's festival-based, and the food varies so completely. The use of spices, different spices. My grandfather would carry an onion in his pocket, and we were all told to eat raw mango, chutneys to keep us safe from the heat. And then in winter, in summer, in let's say in a season like monsoon, we associate Delhi with monsoon, with romance, with picnics. It meant dal bari roti, hari mirch keema, Qutub Minar. The first season of peas in winter was matar ki phaliyan, and then again in winter it was use of heavy spices. So it's also about how a house was always open. My family's been associated with Delhi for 400 years, 350 years. We came in during the time of my community, which Rakhshanda's father also belongs to. It's called the Punjabi Saudagran, mercantile community that came from Bhera in Multan, and was invited by Shah Jahan after there was I think there was a famine or a plague, I can't remember. And after that, to revive the economic life of the city. So we've been here since. And my name Dehlvi is like from Delhi. So I'm very proud of that name. And I try to showcase various elements of that city. And I've been working, that's why I work on heritage. I've done the dargahs of Delhi. And I felt that food was a very, core essence of our lives and needed to be written about. And so it's just season-based and how our family, reacted to good eat what. In winter, we were not allowed young girls to eat warm spices because, they thought our hormones would go into a sexual overdrive. So no anda yolk for the girls, no, the garam taseer hai. Don't give them so much meat, don't give young boys. My mother still says, don't give him so much keema, keep him on a vegetarian diet, he's not married. So, it's, we have all these lovely little traditions and to eat what, and when the bahu comes in, kheer banti hai, meetha banta hai, sabse pehle, and they would judge her when they were going, to test her, chini or namak, and they'd keep it powdered. And then you don't have to joke and say, okay, now we see what you pick up, cook with this, what is the chini one. So it's so much more than food.
Let me draw your attention to this book. It's available outside. Do look out for it. It's not a conventional cookbook. It's a memoir. It's a family chronicle. It's very anecdotal. It has a little of all that Sadia has said. But I want to draw your attention to its title, Jasmine and Gins. And the subtitle is very interesting, Memories and Recipes of My Delhi. So there's an enormous sense of ownership of a city in this. My conversations with Sadia, which circle around food and other things, but come back to food somehow. I'm from Western Uttar Pradesh, but the same dish would be cooked very differently in my home and very differently by her. So there is a kind of chauvinism. Yesterday, Ram Guha drew our attention to chauvinism in disciplines, in academic disciplines, but there is food chauvinism also. I'd like to believe that the chukandar gosht cooked in my home is the finest, and Sadia tells me it is not. So you see, the Delhi Walas are extremely chauvinistic people, let me tell you this.
Well, so are the Lucknow Walas. Ye ladai badi purani hai. It's an old fight that our pulao is better.
So the same dish, the same seasonal produce can be magically transformed. Now, let's stick to the book because our conversations are on a loop and they sort of go on. So, Sadia, why don't you tell this audience about the title? Where do the jasmine and the gins fit in with the food?
I didn't want to have a food title. Because I felt it's so much about stories. And even with my publisher, I had we had pretty much fights over the title because they thought it was a very bad, old style title, and I somehow got my way, and it's worked. I said, no, it has to have, stories on the cover. I don't want a great just a nice looking dish or something. So gins and jasmine and gins is again stories of Delhi summer and a house. We had this before the collapse of Urdu language, which is another story. We had a very, very large house on Sadar Patel Mark. It was called Shama Koti. And we all believed that there were jinns living with us, and and everybody heard them at night. Everybody accepted them. Wazi aati thi, don't laugh, Kali, it's true. And when we were not allowed, my grandmother in summer, we used to put jasmine on the chat, on the terrace. It was sprinkled with water and charpaiyan lagti thi, terrace pe. And then those, and young girls were not allowed to put jasmine on their beds or in their hairs because they said that jinn aashik ho jayenge. So we were not allowed to go with open hair in the lawns and stuff like that. And as children when we played, any season, and there was a particular time which is called Hamare Yahan Dono Waqt Mil Rahe Hain.
Just before sunset.
It would be dusk at best, just 15 minutes before the sunset, and what we call, Maghrib ka waqt ho raha hai. So we were all told there was a milk break at about after we played in the garden, and then we used to say there's a gin break. So the jinns, time for the jinns to go out. So my grandmother would say, come in for 15 minutes, come, you have to come in. So waiting that the jinns will pass, and then we would go back to play.
And they would pass through the niches in the wall.
Yeah, but we didn't have niches because it was a very modern architecture. I think they're still there, they never bothered us, but our house was bought by Mayawati. And if I ever meet Mayawati, I don't want to ask her, how are the jinns, are they bothering you? I don't know, they loved us, I don't know how they're going to, what their relationship with Mayawati is.
You wanted to ask some questions?
No, actually I was going to ask you about the title. What made you
Can't hear anything. Please take this.
I was going to ask you about the title, the same question.
I just thought Jasmine and Gins, I wrote a whole chapter on how my mother's house, I grew up in stories also. My mother used to say, they are Muslim Gins, so they've come to do their wuzu. She said in my childhood, she saw that the taps would open and close, and I heard all apne aap hi, the water would come and somebody would close the taps and stuff like that. So it was just assumed that, these are Muslim jinns and it's time for prayer, so they're just doing their wuzu. So it's just something not shocking. And as Muslims, I have to say we believe that because it's in the Quran that man made, human beings from clay and the jinns from fire. So frankly, you can't be a Muslim until you believe that jinns exist. And they are said to be of different people, and they're just in a different dimension and live, but they're supposed to be have very extreme emotion. So that's why when somebody goes a bit mad, they say Jinnat bana hua hai, So that's the thing.
I was also going to ask you mention in your book, I read it quickly because I got it yesterday. You said that the Portuguese brought chilies to Goa and that they started growing it in the 16th century, and 200 years later they came to Delhi. Now, from what we know, the Portuguese and the Mughals, they had contacts right from the 16th century, the second half of the 16th century. There was exchange of goods, there was trade, there was cultural exchange, art, and so many other fields. Now, my question to you is that why do you think it took 200 years for chilies to reach Delhi?
Delhi food, we actually know very little about it. I'll take this opportunity to just give you a very brief little history. Before the 12th centuries, when the Muslims came in, we have very little recorded history before that of actual Delhi, because the Muslims really began documenting the good, the bad, the ugly. And the first accounts we really have of Delhi cuisine are Devatuta. So we know of the tables of Gracias, Iltutmish, then later of Khilji, and then of course we have, later there was Khusro was writing about it in the 14th century. Then you have Akbar, the Baburnama, writing about what people ate and what was there and what wasn't there. And then Humayun went to Persia. And that is when the Persian influences began to come, because he was in exile for I don't know how long, how many years, but when he was defeated by Sher Shah Suri. And it was really the entire Indo-Persian culture that began when he got the calligraphers, the artists, the cooks. And then it really refines itself during Akbar's, we know that again through Abu Fazl's account of Ain-e-Akbari, which gives recipes, what the animals were fed, they were fed chickpea, ghee, then saffron pellets to the chickens, and there were 400 cooks from Persia in Akbar's kitchen. And there were also cooks, and even khichdi was served at Akbar's royal kitchen. So they were, he got in everybody from all parts of India, fruits from all parts, grains from all parts. So there was a huge kitchen establishment, and that, I think, really what the cuisine that we have today is a reflection of that cuisine. And you have to remember that in Central Asia, in Iran, and even in parts of India like Kashmir, this in Bukhara, Uzbekistan, none of them use chili. Even today, their food has got very, very subtle fragrance, with raisins and other kinds of things. So somehow Delhi did not use the chilies. It was when the 16th century, Shah Jahan's daughter laid out Chandni Chowk, which is, you must have heard, the bazaar in Delhi. And there was a canal that flowed through the Chandni Chowk. And in the 18th century, I think it was during Muhammad Shah Ragila's time, that canal actually became very polluted. And the Hakims had a great say in what the people should really eat. This has medicinal value and this has this. And so by that time, when the waters got polluted, they told the people of the city to start eating chilies as a way to purge the toxins naturally from the body. And that's how Delhi's chaat came about, the nahari came about, and then Delhi slowly became known for their, for their spicy chili food.
I have another question to you. Can you tell us something, because we are not so familiar, got to know this, halim, something about halim, how it is prepared, and also about why Muslims eat halal meat.
No, halim, I think I'm going to ask you to buy my book too. Get the recipe. Yeah. Halim is, I make halim on Ashu, the 10th
Is
of
halim a Delhi dish?
Well, the Hyderabad, I'm sorry, it is. That battle can go on. Biryani, chapde, halim, we believe that.
Was not.
And so do buy my book. I make it on 10th of Muharram, Ashur, every year at least once. And that's, I think, there's a tradition of the Prophet's family actually, because it was Shami Ghariba, everybody's martyred. So they put whatever they had together, different kind of dals, meat, and because it was soft, and so that's what's traditionally definitely made in. Traditionally overnight, but now I make everything in a pressure cooker, I really don't care, I roast it up pretty early. The halal, I guess there's no, it's just a command. I think for me, healthy is halal because the blood flows out and doesn't clot. And that is why even frozen meat today was, I think a lot of them have to be certified halal, because halal is simply really just healthy, because the blood is what is haram in our tradition. And yes, we grew up with that, so even now, my friends of course get very shocked. But I still check when I go to a restaurant. I quietly check with somebody, who's doing the catering, where's the chef, please find out if the chicken is halal or can we have it. And I find that because the butchers are 99.9% Muslim, most food, at least in the northern part of India, maybe not in Punjab because they have their own tradition of what is called the chatka. Other than that, I would think, even Maharashtra and most, because the butcher community is largely Muslim. Yeah.
So we have 5 minutes left, it seems. I'm going to ask a question and then leave it open for the audience. Sadia, evidently you were not born a cook, right? For many, many years you were not cooking. You went away and then you sort of learned cooking.
Irish boarding school.
Yeah. Your mother, who's your ultimate litmus test, who till this date, by the way, she's terrified of her mother. And if her mother passes a dish, only then do we know that it is perfect. And her mother does not cook. Right?
Yeah, my mother can't cook to save her life.
Tell us, how does one become a good cook? How do you
I think it's just my passion to serve good food and just, because I've grown up with the best of cuisine. Our family was known for, the best table spread and showcasing and eating the best. So, but my mother, because I think she was growing up in a different one generation earlier, she always associated cooking with oppression of women. So she's even today she says, you know, only women with oppressive husbands cook well. And bhai jinke zalim शौहर हैं वही खाना अच्छा पकाएंगे. So, you know, that kind of a thing. And she still thinks I waste my time in the kitchen. She's not excited about my work. She rubbishes my cooking, rubbishes my work. And when I told her I was doing consultancy at the ITC, which I'm doing a food festival for them, she just said, देखो खानदान का इतना बुरा वक्त आ गया, घर की लड़कियां बावर्ची का काम कर रही हैं. So, you know, she says, this is what we've come to. You know, क्या हमारे घर के खानदान को क्या फिक्र. So, you know, my mother has no interest. Yes, she wanted to do other things in her life, which she did, and she had supported family. So I guess it was my person who really brought me up. There's a whole chapter in the book, Apaseda. She said I should learn because I said, Mummy to nahi khana pakati. She said, वो तो शहज़ादी है, पता नहीं तुम्हारी किस्मत कहाँ लेके जाएगी. And then people will say कि मैंने कुछ नहीं सिखाया सादिया को. You know, there were surrogate moms who looked after you. So she said, nothing doing, you have to learn. सादिया घरदारी आनी चाहिए. सुन ले, मेरी सत्तो घरदारी आनी चाहिए. And so she taught me cooking. So I just watch and learn. And then I became interested. And then I went to America. I had to cook by myself. So I would ring up Apasida and ask her for recipes. And then I just, every time I wanted to rustle up something, I'd ring up my aunts or learn from them, or just say quickly, see the masala. Even today I check a lot of my stuff. I could ring them up in the middle of something. Auntie, I'm doing this. So is it, you know, is it okay? Haan, 5 minutes ubal lo, sangri ko. But we also, like, coming back before I, you know, we also have very interesting, so I think I just learned and learned and learned and learned. But I don't think, I mean, I'm not as good as my, you know, the others in my family are or whatever. But I do want to say that our community has some very interesting things, like, you know, your local traditions. Again, suggested by the Halim, the Hakims. It's like, you know, they lived in Ballimaran, where Ghalib's Haveli is. A lot of our community, the good, you know, the really refined families had this. It was the elite hub of Delhi, and where the Hakims also stayed. So they got us to eat things like gular, kachnar, and so we have gular bhatta, which is not made anywhere. I don't know how if you know what gular is. It's a kind of a fig family, and it grows. It's just opposite a tree opposite my house. And then kachnar again is very, very medicinal. So a lot of these herbs and additions came as suggestions to improve the diet, to improve eyesight, to improve this, to improve that. And yeah, so it's a pretty layered cuisine that we have, and because I feel that I was paranoid that these recipes would die out with my aunts, and I just had to record because there no other way that I could get some of that arki chutney, what goes with what, very particular arki meaty chutney with halim. How does one make it?
Even the seasonings have
oh my God!
This whole business of tempering, the baghar, that has to be, the tadka has to be.
Bagar, and you can be thrown out of the house if you have the wrong bagar. You know, you give this with this. ये नहीं पता तुम्हें इसके ऊपर ये नहीं होता, ये होता है, कटी अदरक होती है, ये लच्छे होते हैं, गलत कटा हुआ प्याज. Very, very particular about presentation because they do say कि पहले आँख खाती है, खुश रंग होना चाहिए. And also I love the whole traditions that we grew up with because I'm trying to shed my rebellious wild past and cover my sins through this cover of spirituality, and I've begun to get drunk on it. And so I enjoy that whole, the Prophet said that the best food is the food that is shared. And the whole tradition of saying a prayer as we did when we were in convent, and Thanksgiving after that. And so I like to do that. I'm trying to, so that this legacy of thanking the Almighty for the table spread, because that's where it's coming from.
I think we can take a couple of questions. Samar seems to have one.
Yes, how much of this knowledge that you've acquired, as you said, is getting passed on to the next generation?
Of cuisine?
And of traditions, I mean.
It's actually disappearing very fast because now you have nuclear families, and we grew up in this like uncle, aunt, amma, Dadi, Nani, relatives coming, going, being pushed out of our homes, our rooms. Today, 10 people say, my room. I mean, we were just, And so there was a whole thing, कि Sunday को हम nahari खाते थे. And so, nahari was a poor man's food. You never served it to guests. It's coming on banquets. You have nahari, but traditionally, वो गरीब आदमी का खाना था. It was the labor's food, which for the people who built Shah Jahanabad. So that itself is changing. Aloo gosht, which Lenny, I think you said you tried, was something that was served at funerals. At Mauti ka khana kehlata tha. And Barat वापस चली जाती थी. And my mamu used to say, who told me a lot of these stories, that Mamu Abdullah, that shocking how people are serving aloo gosht at weddings. He said, the bridegroom's party would have taken insult and gone back. So that is changing. I don't think traditions are being passed on, or recipes are in families being passed on. But when I tell kela salan, meat and banana, or meat and pears, I haven't had them since my grandmother made it. And so I wanted to write about that, so at least they survive and people can still experiment with them.
Even the tradition of putting bread first and then...
Yes, good Rakhshanda, thank you for reminding me. There is a tradition which my mother's made me very conscious, and I try and tell others, but I don't think it's going to survive. There is a tradition that when there is a joyous occasion, you put the food first and never the bread. And when you're meeting it's a sorrow and a gathering to mourn somebody who's gone in the family. After you come back from the graveyard and you break bread together because they don't cook, the relatives send the food, then it is always placing the bread first, because the idea is to break bread together. अभी छोटी-छोटी बातें कहाँ लोगों को याद है, कभी याद रहेंगी, I guess, but traditions also have a way of surviving through oral histories, through written histories.
Then one last quick reminiscence.
Fatima, any question? Reminiscence is what you read the book. Tell me what you would really. What is there any particular
I like a bit
incident?
about seasonal foods. I like a bit about how everything was according to seasonal foods.
Yes, that's it, because now everything is available all the time, and that was never there. People only really had seasonal, whatever was cooked was seasonal vegetable was cooked with the meat and whatever. And I also like, red chilies, I must tell you. My grandmother always carried red chilies, and she was like a gypsy. She was from Karachi. She moved to Karachi by herself because the children were here, but her family was there. So after grandfather died, she just decided to go. I never met her since till I was 13, 14. But she used to just not even tell my mother, she would just get on a bus and go places. So we were all very horrified. We said, she was my gypsy nani. So I said, wow, I used to hear Ammi getting very cross. She said, hey, कुछ नहीं होता, बस मैं लाल मिर्च की पुड़ियाँ रखती हूँ कंबल की आँखों में छुप कर. All her life she slept with a little red chili packet. And I also like the way food makes itself. Rakhshanda, you'll appreciate that. How it makes its way into literature. And my nani would use a lot of it. When I'd say, yeah, she's a nice girl, बड़ी अच्छी सीधी अच्छी लड़की कहेगी जलेबी की तरह सीधी है. So they had that very wicked, a lot of food. Or you say कि भाई, and when somebody was my nani didn't like the idea that we had a lot of women retainers in the house, and some of them were young and attractive, and she was a very suspicious lady. And so she couldn't understand why my mother would allow all these young, dusky women to be around. And they were just there, they just lived there.
So that only for men should be...
So she used to, one particular one was very attractive. And so my mother said, हाँ, अच्छी है, नमकीन है. कहने लगी नहीं, नमक की बोरी है. And I still remember that expression because I was so fascinated by this thing, that she's so salty. Or बहुत सारे जो खाने के ये मूंग मसूर की दाल, our whole language and food is so much part of our language, tradition, culture, birth, death. When you're 4 years old, there's a Bismillah ceremony when you start reading officially the first word of the Quran. उसमें फिर वो बालूशाही बढ़ती है. Milad pe bhi balushahi badti hai. I mean, they just right, that sweet will go with this sweet is said to that. Bacha paida hote hai, usko shahad chatate hain. Whether the nurse is looking or not, they'll just quickly look and then quickly put in a, whether it's a blue baby or any baby, that is the sunnah, it has to be fed a drop of honey. And there's an azan that is said in the child's infant's ear. And so right from birth to death, when somebody is dying, even in the ICU, where you're not supposed to give anybody anything, we still manage to smuggle a little zamzam and put it in the lips, wet the lips with. I did that with one of my aunts. I mean, Jalil se zamzam le aao, patani, that should be the last thing, the water from Mecca that he should have. And I think other traditions have similar things of Ganga Jal or the communion or something. So right from birth to death, it's so much about, so much about our food and how important the memories, the celebrations, the deaths, the weddings, the first Pehla Phera, the first time the bridegroom comes to the women's house after family. Then I remember there was this dish, dahi bade, and you have jest and fun with them. And for the bridegroom of my cousin's bride, and I was invited to the Pehla Phera, and as soon as he opened the lift, a bird flew out of it. So, dahi bade, they were made of cotton wool. So you would eat it and then suddenly realize that that's cotton wool. These are traditions also that have gone. But yes, it's just, I think food is just so much related to the soul eventually.
Let's close with that. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you.